I'm going to use the strap in a moment. So we'll take a little bit of time before that moment arrives just to set the strap up. So either sitting on the block or your bolster, allow yourself to bring the soles of your feet together, beagle hair. And then just take the strap and bring it around the knees. Now you may have noticed that as I did that, I actually lifted my knees up a little further than when they would normally be to sort of their maximum limit. You want to just be a little bit short of your maximum range of opening up. And the strap just goes around the outside of the knees. So it's just pressing a little bit into the shin and the back and the top of the thigh. And then once you've set that up and you're comfortable, we will let ourselves proceed. So we'll come down. And once you have the bolster still fairly close by, I'm going to take the block and put that towards the back of the mat. Now sitting on the floor now, I'm going to take that strap again and put it in exactly the same place as I had it before. And you'll notice that there's a difference between how far you sit with your legs open when you're sitting on the ground as to sitting just an inch or 2 inches higher. It does make a difference, which is why we had that request just to do it a little bit less. Now to come down onto the ground, it's a little bit tricky. First of all, take the hands behind, lift your bottom off the floor and then tuck the tailbone forward and then lay back down gently. So you're kind of laying onto the back of the pelvis a little bit. And you can use the muscles of your core. Bring yourself down onto your elbows. Keep your chin in towards the chest. Make sure you feel happy. And then just bring yourself down slowly to the floor. So you've got a nice long line in the spine. An easy breathing belly. Nice big broad open shoulders that kind of spread out. Now you can either take the hands to the side, palms facing up. Some people like to take the right hand down below the belly button and the left hand above. So as you breathe, you can breathe into your hands. Eyes are gently held shut. And we're going to be here for about 3 minutes or so. So we're letting the groins open, but not in a really deep, stretchy way. We want the stretch, so the contraction and the extension of the muscles in the hips to be balanced, rather than stretching out to its limit, compressing to its limit, just taking it a little bit easier. It's seen as a more restorative posture. Now, not only does it allow the hips to open out in a very safe way, but it keeps the spine in a neutral plane and the pelvis neutral to that. So it's very easy on the nervous system as well. And then you use one hand to take hold of the strap and just draw the strap towards us so the knees come in a little bit. Move the feet a little closer so that they are more underneath the knees. Then we'll take the feet a little wider than the hips. And then we'll take the bolster and just place that under the bottom. Let ourselves lift up gently and either use your fingers or one heel to roll the bolster in and underneath your pelvis so that it's not actually touching the spine. And then once you're in a safe position, you just let the hands come back out to the side. So bridge pose. Nice opening in the chest. Relax across the belly. The knees want to travel in a little bit, so I've gradually walked my feet right out to the edges of the mat to let the knees rock in. And depending on the size of your body, you might have to walk more or less than that. And also a little bit on the prevalence of your thighs to draw outwards rather than inwards, which differs from person to person. Now, if you don't happen to have the bolster, a couple of bricks on the end give you more than enough height. Okay, we're going to be here for about 3 minutes plus. And this just gives us a chance to experience gravity through the pelvis and the lower back muscles in a very different way. Sufficient stress on the joints and ligaments and muscles and the discs. Got 2 minutes left. So we're going to start to move our way back out of it. So bring the feet a little closer in to hip distance and a little tighter in towards the body. Draw your belly down towards your spine. Allow yourself to lift the hips just enough so you can slide the bolster forwards and then ease your bottom back down to the floor. Once you've done that, draw the knees gently in towards the chest. You can use the heels to smooth the bolster away a little bit. And I'll draw the knees in towards the chest. So we're going to take the hands very loosely around the front of the shins and still keep that nice long flat back. And just let the legs gently rest in towards the body. Let's see where the leg muscles, the lower back muscles and the glutes want to move to. So we're not preempting, we're just holding and seeing what happens. Do we, do the knees travel wide? Do they drop in? Do they get closer to the body? Do they just stay stuck in the same place? What are they doing? Okay, we'll take a little breath from there. Allow ourselves to move the bolster, so use my feet to do that, and take it over to the side. And then we're going to come into the banana pose. So we're going to lengthen the legs out down the center line of that. Put the hands up towards the sky. I'm going to preempt by taking hold of my left wrist with my right hand. Drop the arms gently towards the floor behind me. And then once I'm in position, I'm going to shimmy the shoulders over towards the right. Wait a little bit, just maybe 3 or 4 breaths. And I'm going to see if I can take the feet also over towards that right side, keeping both sides of the pelvis evenly balanced. So rather than rolling in and turning onto one cheek, I want to keep both buttocks down on the floor. Same amount of weight. So really I'm taking this as a side bend. Just happened to be on the floor when it happened. So we've got about another minute here. Bring ourselves back into the center, shoulders and legs, and swap over the hand. So taking hold of the right wrist, shimmy the shoulders gently over towards the left. Wait a little while. And then we slowly take the feet over to the left as well. So it is a banana, but it doesn't have to be a big curve to be a banana. We've got about another minute here. Plenty of time to breathe into the side of the body, feeling it lengthen out. We'll start to bring ourselves back into the center. And let the hands come back down by the side of the body. Bring the heels back in a little bit. Gentle wriggle around on the spine. And then we're going to roll very carefully onto the right side. Use the hands to press ourselves back up as we exhale. And we'll move into child's pose. So we'll spin around a little bit. And we'll take the knees fairly narrow. Sit back on the heels. You can use the block underneath the back of the thighs if that's not super comfortable on the legs at all in any way. And then you can bring the hands today underneath the forehead. So bringing the floor a little closer to you. And we'll be here for a couple of minutes. So initially when we come in, it can feel a little tricky to breathe. But we want to see if we can continue to breathe into the belly a little bit. As that starts to gently massage out the long muscles in the lower back and also in the glutes. Now, once you get used to this pose, it can be quite soporific. So we've got about another 50 seconds or so. Plenty of time to relax down. And just sink. The breath slow and the mind slow together. We'll start to bring ourselves back up. We'll come onto all fours. And we'll stretch the legs out a little bit. So just taking one leg at a time back to stretch out. Takes a few seconds for the blood flow to kind of re-establish itself through to the knee joints when you've been sitting like that. And then when you feel ready, we'll bring the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. And we'll bring the knees together on the center line. You're going to slide the left knee as far forward as you can and have the heel sit underneath the buttock. And then allow yourself to use your toes to kind of incrementally walk your right foot back. So quite often when we do this pose, we take the knee out to the side, but this evening we're just going to have it pointing straight forwards. And then if you're able to, rather than being on the wrist, you're going to come up onto the knuckles. So thumbs point forwards and then fingers are just loosely clapped. And draw the shoulders back a little bit. still a swan pose, just a different variation. Now, when we take it in this direction, the pelvis is a little more square to the front of the mat, a little bit more balanced, even from side to side. When we take the knee out to the side, it kind of tilts at the pelvis a little bit and puts more strain into the SI joint, which is what we're trying to get the benefits of the stretch in the practice without disturbing the SI joint. We'll bring ourselves back onto our hands and back up onto all fours. Knees are together again. Hands are underneath the shoulders. This time we draw that right knee forwards as far as we can. Sit on the heel as we gently walk that left foot back. Take the hands forwards a fraction if you feel more comfortable. Getting the hands underneath the shoulders. And then we come back up onto the knuckles, just very lightly pressing into the floor. And we are trying to let the front of the body be very soft, so the belly is relaxed. We're able to sustain a compression in the lower back. It's not as deep as it would be if the knee was out to the side. It's doing good work for the discs in the lower back. We'll bring the hands back underneath. Bring yourselves back up onto all fours. And this time, we're going to sit back onto the heels just temporarily whilst we find that block. Bring that behind. And we're going to take the shoelace pose. So sit gently back down onto the block, lengthen the legs out in front. The toes and heels are together, sitting upright. And take the left leg and pass that underneath and bring the heel out towards the right side. I'm going to try and have the left knee pointed directly forwards. We'll bring the right foot across, but rather than drawing that towards the hip back towards us, we're going to keep it out towards the knee. And then just use your side of your foot to edge your foot further out to the side. So right foot goes left, the shin bone is pretty much parallel to the front of the mat. And then if you want to, you can use a little lift in the fingertips to squeeze the thighs together a little bit closer. And then we're into our full shoelace pose. You can, if you want to, start to walk this lower foot further forwards, but only if that's really easy. For most of us that have got a relatively deep or an average deep socket in the hips, we're not hypermobile enough to start to draw that leg forwards to any great degree without putting excessive pressure into the knee. we're already putting quite a little bit of load into this top leg. And obviously when we change over, it will move it into the opposite leg. So you don't really need to kind of focus on that at the moment. We can just go, yeah, I'm going to stretch one leg at a time. Okay, now I'm going to take that a little further. So I'm going to take the right hand out to the side and draw the right shoulder back, keeping the chest square to the front of the mat. Walk out to the side a little, and then allow yourself to bend the elbow just a little bit. So you can feel that side bend starting to develop in the body. Now, if you wish, you can take the left hand up towards the sky, lay your arm against your head, and then take your hand over to bending at the elbow, letting the hand drift down towards the right side of the mat. And that will just accentuate the stretch down the side of the body and into the hips. We don't spend too long here. If we were going to take longer, I'd be bringing the bolster into play. And then we'll press gently back up and untangle the legs. Out. Give them a little windscreen wiper shape. And then when you're ready, take the right foot underneath and out towards the hip, knee points forwards. Left foot comes across, stays out near the line of the knee, and then we just walk the foot gently off. Little lift to get those thighs even closer together, and then we sit up nice and tall. As we breathe and settle, you can feel the deepness of the stretches in the muscles. It goes from sort of being on the ends of the limbs and starts to come more into the center, the belly of the muscles. Okay, we'll take that left hand out to the side, draw the shoulder back again like we did before. As you exhale, take a little bow of the elbow, so gentle bend. Just make sure you're happy. And then if it feels good, you take the right arm up, lay that hand over to the opposite side. So just resting your bicep against your ear, really, and forearm on the crown of your head. And we'll press slowly back up. And untangle the legs again. Give them another little shake out. And we're going to come into saddle pose. So I'm just going to cross the ankles over and roll forwards, but effectively we just need to get back up on all fours. And then I'm going to take the block and I'm going to have it in a portrait view and take it all the way down towards the heels and bring the knees together. Move the bolster towards the back of the mat, preempting where we're going to be going to, taking the heels out nice and wide and slowly sit back onto the block. Now, if you need to take that a little higher because your knees are screaming at you, then take a break and put that on top of the block, going crosswise. So both sitting bones have got something attached rather than going through sitting on the coccyx, which would be the other way. And then once you're in position, we'll just take the bolster and manipulate that behind us a little bit. And I'm going to sit here. I'm going to take this in several phases. This is the first phase. Now you can place the palms just on the thighs, or a nice way to sit is to take the left hand into your lap, palm facing up, thumb pointing out, and then do the same with the right, basically with the right hand on top. So thumbs are together. And then you can let the shoulders relax back, and you can even take a little time to close the eyes and settle. Ideally, the toes are pointing backwards rather than out to the side. We are going to be here for a couple of minutes. So we need to definitely make sure that we were honest about how we felt when we come into the pose and how high we need to be. And one more minute. You can probably start to feel some changes in the texture of the muscles, the feeling in the knee joints, and perhaps a lack of feeling in the ankle joints. Okay. Now, we're going to take ourselves into second phase of this pose by just taking the hands back onto the bolster and leaning back a little bit. Now you want to allow the head to drop and bring the chin in towards the chest. See how that feels. And if the kneecaps are starting to lift away from the floor, then this is as deep as you need to go. And we are trying to tilt from the pelvis, which kind of requires to scoot the pubic bone forwards a little bit. So what we're going to do is take a little breath, draw the belly in. Going to start to take the weight out of the bottom a little bit, pressing down into the hands. Then tilt the pelvis forwards just a fractional amount, so that you're a little bit more onto the back edge of the pelvis. And then you can bring your elbows down onto the bolster. Now, if you notice that your knees lift or your chest is excessively rounding up towards the sky, then again, you want to move back to where we were, because it's just a little bit too much for where the body wants to be at the moment. What we're trying to do is let the lower back sink down towards the floor and the ribs sink down as well. So we actually get a little closer towards the bolster. Keep the chin in towards the chest. And try and relax the belly and the lower back muscles. And sometimes you have to play around with the bolster to make sure that you've got it far enough back, not sinking into it deeper, things like that. We've got about another 7 or 8 breaths here. And then we're going to draw the belly in a little bit. Press those shoulders back and elbows back a little, so we lift a little higher. Then we'll bring one hand at a time onto the bolster, push away gently, and let ourselves sit up nice and tall. As we do that, we'll just move the bolster out to the side, and then we're going to see if we've got anything left in our legs to press down into the fingertips, and draw ourselves back up onto all fours, and I'm just going to stay there for a moment. Then gradually turn the toes of one foot underneath and slide that leg back. You choose which leg you want to work with first of all. Gradually press out through the heel lightly. And when it feels good, you bring the knee back down to the floor very gently. Do the same with the other leg. We still want to stretch it out carefully and gently. Okay. So we'll come back to all fours. We'll just use the feet to move the block off to the side. And then we're ready for cat-cow. So we draw the chest forwards, roll the shoulders back. On the exhale, tilt the pelvis, draw the belly in, roll the spine to the sky, press into the hands and the shins. Inhale forwards, keep the belly drawn in a little bit. And exhaling out. Now you may be moving faster or even slower than me. And that's fine. It's about finding your rhythm of movement with your breath. We'll come into a neutral spine, which is where we're still pressing away from the ground a little bit, feeling the back of the shoulders stretch out. Now take the right foot just to the outside of the right hand and have the foot pointing forwards, and then allow the right leg and the right arm to press in towards each other. Bring the hips over the center line a little bit, and then gradually start to tuck the toes on the left foot underneath and lengthen that out. So I lift that knee off the ground, to a lunge with the leg to the outside of the hand. Head is in line with the rest of the body. And then we'll take the right hand forwards, easy lift towards the sky, rotate the body, and take the hand up towards the sky. So I'm going to stay here for a few breaths, pressing out through that back leg. Lunge twist. And bring the hand down. And we'll step back onto all fours. When you're ready, we'll take the left foot outside of the left hand. Bring the hip bones back over the center line. A little adjustment. Press the leg and the arm together, take the toe on the opposite leg underneath and slide that foot out until you get a straight leg. Keep the belly drawn in a little bit. Tiny little bit of pressure between the arm and the leg, staying in contact. And then walk your left hand as far forward as you can, and then lift it up towards the sky into a twist. Press into that bottom hand, so you keep pressing away from the floor. Press out through the heel on the back leg. Try and keep the knee in the same place on the front leg as it started. And we'll bring that hand down to the floor as well. Come back onto the knees. Make sure the knees are underneath the hips. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders and then take them out as wide as the mat. Going to walk the hands forwards into melting hearts, keeping the hips over the knees. We'll press the shins down into the floor, bootlaces down a little bit. Going to lower the chest gently, but just keep the chin and the forehead off of the ground. And press into the hands a little as well, so you activate all the muscles in the arms. Belly is drawn in slightly. I'm going to press the shins down just a fraction. The whole body move, not just the upper body. Now to come out of this, we start to walk the fingers back and press the hips towards the back of the mat. Once we've got enough weight shifted back, we can lift up onto all fours easily. Take a little breath from there, walk the knees forwards a little bit, back onto the heels. And then we're going to take that block and just place that behind the toes. And let ourselves sit back onto that block. So shimmy the legs out to the side, and we'll take in Janu Shasana, which is translated loosely into head, knee to toe. We'll take the right heel in towards the groin. So the sole of the foot presses into the thigh a little bit, toes point forwards. The shin comes down towards the floor. If not, pack it with whatever you have handy. Make sure your front foot is pointing towards the sky and a little flex back, and then bend a little in the knee. And then again, from this hip bone, we're going to just hinge our way forward. So we're going to lift up and then fold over the thigh. Going to keep a nice juicy bend in that leg on the front. We'll draw the left hip back, press the left heel down. See how that feels. And then we'll release. We'll do exactly the same on the second side. So squaring of the hips, some adjustments, some flexing, some lift in the spine, and then fold over. draw this hip back once you get into the depths of your pose and press the heel down a little, to sort of make use of the stretch reflexes in the calf and hamstrings and the buttocks. Also, with the knee higher, it's easier to get the ribs to make contact. You're going to take a breath there, use the hands to press into the floor to lift back up. So the legs out, this time have the feet about hip distance apart. Then to draw the right heel back towards the body, but we're going to take it out to the outside edge of the hip. So this space between the inside of your right foot and the inside of your left thigh is your working space. And the reason you want to have a big space there is that as we're going to pass the body forwards of this right knee. So we'll take the left hand a little bit out to the side, bring my right arm in, and then let myself lean forwards. And I'm just going to take my hand out and see if I can find a big toe out there with the right hand. And whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to try and have the right foot parallel. It will desperately want to spin out to the side. I'm going to press the knee, if I can, into the back of the armpit. Just leaning forwards, drawing the chest up into that same 45-degree angle that we had with Janu Shashasana. Just the only difference really here is that the bottom leg is a little straighter, and we've got a knee in our armpit. So kind of hard to ignore that one. Now we're going to release this right hand. Allow the palm to face out to the side and start to draw that out towards the back of the mat. Now, if you can get your hand back and get your fingers to touch your hip bone, then you can come into the next phase, which is to take the left hand away and bring that behind your back and hook the fingers together. Now, if you're unable to get your fingers all the way back towards your hip bone, keep the left hand on the floor and keep just leaning forwards a little bit and trying to draw your hand gently back. You need to let the shoulder relax to a certain degree to get it into the right place. Now, obviously, limb length and thickness come into play a little bit as well. Generally, if you can't get your hand back towards your hip bone, then you're not going to be able to make the bind. And a strap would be handy. And take a little breath here and release. And then we're going to take it slowly into the second side. So again, feet hip distance apart. Draw the left heel back out towards the outside of the hip. There's plenty of space. I guess I've got about 9 inches between my foot and the inside of my thigh. I can always remember when I first did this, that my teacher said about 3 or 4 inches. It's like, well, how do you get round your leg? It's in the way. Couldn't quite understand that. And of course, she was hanging out and going around. But there's nothing wrong with going directly forwards. So when you're ready, we'll take the right hand forwards a little bit. We'll lengthen the spine up. We'll start to move ourselves forwards. You can take a couple of kind of easy moves in. Get yourself to a happy place and then take the hand out, if you're able to, just to hook the front toe, big toe. And we'll try and press that arm gently into the back of, sorry, the knee into the back of the arm. And then we're going to release that hand, send the palm outside, hook that round slowly. See if we can find the hip bone first. If you can, you reach round and see if you can get the bind. If not, you just keep moving forwards and taking the hand back. We're trying to have the chest square to the front of the mat. Sometimes I take this in a twisted version, but tonight we're just trying to draw the chest forwards. Last couple of breaths. And then we'll release. So we're going to use the bolster and the block for a nice twist. And this is really sort of an alternative to Shavasana. So if you don't want to do the twisted version, then you can Shavasana yourself, I guess. I was going to use the block and the bolster. You could take it higher if you wanted to. Now, I'm going to turn to the side of the mat. So the bolster is out to my, in this case, my left hip. I got fist distance between my hip bone and the bolster. And my hip bone, the round end bit, is following the center line of the mat. Now I'm going to lean onto that left cheek and turn my body in towards the bolster so I can get either hand either side gently of the bolster, and then I'm going to bend the bottom knee. So I've got a 90-degree angle between the thigh and the bolster, and the shin is another 90 degree. And then I'm going to turn the foot down and slide that leg back until it's on the center line of the mat. And then I'll slowly bend that knee, and that brings the knee back down onto the floor. So I got two right angles. The bottom legs, or my bottom legs, my only legs, are making a little bit of a swastika, lower portion of the swastika side. And then you can bring the hands to wherever you want to and let the chest sink down. Now, quite often it's nice to have the head facing the same direction as the knees. Pointing out to the side. Be careful not to have your head hanging over the end of the bolster. You want to keep the neck supported as well. Now, just going to breathe. The hands gently to come back underneath the body to press gently away. Now you could simply just roll around and come straight back onto the opposite side, so taking the legs out. I need to change from one end to the other just so that I can see the clock, nothing more. So if you are needing to do that, so you can see the laptop or your device that you're streaming from, that's not a problem. But you could just get away with simply just manipulating yourself around. Then just line yourself up. Remember the gap for the fist between the bolster and yourself. Start to lean in. Turn the body, take the hands. Bottom knee bends. Top leg swings out. Find a little bend in the knee. And lower yourself down. So the chest is fairly square to the bolster. Takes a little while for the bolster to kind of move around underneath you to accommodate the shape of your rib cage, but it does finally get there. And then again, we bring the hands back under the body. Exhale slowly up. Bring ourselves into a seated posture. Spine lengthen out nice and slowly. And then as you're ready, bring the hands in towards your heart, taking the breath in, closing the eyes. And as you slowly exhale, let the chin drop. Draw the belly in, let a bow naturally form in the spine. Doing your practice for the evening. Slow breath comes in and builds the spine back for us, lifting the head. Namaste. Thank you very much for joining me this Monday evening, and hopefully have a lovely week and enjoy the sunshine. I'll see you soon.